the red and colored in her full lips. She looked amazing. The band-aids and PICC line port on her upper arm were a convenient touch as well. We heard chaos coming down the hallway. It was starting. I ran and peeked out the door down the hall. Holy shit, I thought. They don't mess around. I saw a colorful mass of costumes and balloons and all things inflatable working their way toward our room. Quick, Sierra, they're almost here. Sierra grabbed her IV pole and hurried to the door. Judy from Child Life, dressed as a pumpkin, made a considerable and enthusiastic fuss over Sierra's costume. Judy was pulling a wagon of treat bags and handed one to Sierra. It was heavy and full of candy. Following the pumpkin, there were 2 astronauts and a decorated pole of hanging planets swinging back and forth. There was an inflated pink unicorn the size of the Incredible Hulk. There was an entire safari of helium-filled silver balloon animals, lions and tigers and giraffes, oh my. The safari guide handed Sierra a stuffed unicorn. Tears of joy literally filled my eyes as I watched her experience the celebration. The parade lasted about 8 minutes. Each character that traveled past our door was full of energy, dancing, prancing, and smiling ear to ear. They all greeted Sierra by name and complimented her zombie likeness. These were the moments that made it all worth it. All the pain and pokes and procedures. Sometimes I questioned what it was all for, but when I witnessed this, I felt it. The hope, the positivity, the caring. I saw the nurses and support staff coming together for the sole reason of bringing happiness to these imprisoned, sick kids. The hours of planning they must have gone through to execute this perfect parade, one that brought so much joy to my little girl's face, was unimaginable.
That is an amazing, happy experience, happy time. I mean, you did such a great job of describing what was going on. And so tell us again a little bit about, what was going on behind the scenes for you during that time.
Yeah, well, like I mentioned, we were in Edmonton at the time. And actually, I think we were all just feeling a little defeated. So it was the end of October, and this whole thing started at the end of May. So it'd been 5 months already, and we were still in the hospital. Sierra had actually been discharged twice, but every time she got discharged, she got readmitted due to an infection of some sort. So it was like we were in this hole and we just couldn't dig ourselves out. So I think this was just that light at the end of the tunnel that was like so much joy on, a dreary time in what was becoming our new lives.
Yeah. Well, and you need some of the positive reinforcement, right? Because you guys have been through so much by that time, and truly amazing story. So what advice do you have for others who are facing similar family health medical crisis?
I thought about this one a lot. And I don't know that I would have any advice to anybody, because I do believe that everybody's experiences are all different. There are maybe some key things that I'm happy that I did along the way that I'll share with you. So one of the things that I did from the beginning was I kept a list of important dates and events in my phone, like just on the notes app, so it'd be like whatever date Sierra had a stroke, whatever date we went to Edmonton, like just very brief. But I have revisited that list because I needed this information so many times, like it's countless. So I was really happy to make this silly little list. In addition to that, I took photos at what seemed like very inappropriate times. Times that you normally would not want to capture and take photos of, right? Like Sierra would maybe just be fresh out of a surgery and laying in her bed, pale and frail and hooked up to all of these machines. And I took out my camera and took a picture, and I felt really weird doing that. But I kind of knew that I would want this photo at some point, whether it was for me to see how far we've come or if it was to show Sierra. And I did bring some of those photos tonight. So I'm going to show them to you when we're done chatting. Oh, I have one more thing actually that we did that I quite liked. And someone had recommended this to us, and I don't remember who it was, but someone had said, because you're in the hospital for so long and it's kind of dreary and drabby, bring some stuff to hang on the walls, make it homey. So we had printed out a bunch of pictures, just like family, friends, good times, and, you know, some of the cards and stuff that we'd received. And we decorated her walls with all these pictures. And it was really great because, for one, it would give, you know, me and Sierra something to look at sometimes, or Scott, or whoever was in the hospital. But it was also a really great like conversation piece for when doctors and nurses or medical support staff were in the room and having to wait for something, you know, you run out of conversation, right? So often they would like look at the wall, and then they would ask Sierra about one of the pictures, or they would talk about something that they saw on the wall. So that was a positive thing that we did, a good thing.
Well, and those little things make a huge difference, right? And you don't know how that's going to mean later, right? You're capturing the moments, and you know, really fortunate that you did, because then you were able to even put it in your book, not just use it for, you know, when the doctors ask you, when did this happen, when did that happen? So
sure.
So how has this experience changed you?
It's changed me in so many ways. Like, for one, I believe I'm a much more empathetic person. You know, they say you never know what's happening with other people, and I feel that more now, that I am more empathetic to others. I'm also more grateful for the little things. And I think I express it more. Like, I show gratitude both like through prayer and just verbally, like through talking to people. I think I'm more grateful when, you know, if somebody does something, I try to make sure to say thank you out loud and make sure that they know that I appreciate it. I know my mom has always said to me, like, do all the things you want to do now. Don't wait for when you're older and retired and all that kind of stuff. And I'm really trying to put action to that more now. Those words mean more to me now that we've gone through an experience like this. So I'm trying really hard to like live our life to the fullest, and we're going to travel as much as we can, and we're going to do it now. We're not going to wait until we're retired. We're going to do it while the kids are at home, and you know, we still can. So so all of those things. And, you know, I also feel that I'm trying to give back more. So when we were in the hospital, we were so grateful to receive such wonderful supports, like through individuals and through organizations. So I'm trying to show action and give back to individuals and organizations. For example, the Ronald McDonald House was a wonderful organization. We stayed with them for quite some time, and they always had the best food there. So now that we're back in Saskatoon, I've been to the Ronald McDonald House a number of times to volunteer and to do some baking. So you can go with 6 people and you can bake, and you get to bake for like the residents and the families that are staying there. So it's a fun thing to do, and you get to experience the Ronald McDonald House in Saskatoon. And every time I go, I try to bring new people with me so that I can share that experience with others, and then they can maybe bring people with them, and they can go volunteer and bring, you know, share that experience with others. So I am trying to action a lot more of those things and to give back where I can.
That's great example. And I know that we did that one Sunday morning of baking. There were some of our family members, and it was an amazing experience, right? And I think all of us felt the emotion attached with it because of what you guys had gone through. And that's, yeah, it's great to be able to share that with others and be able to talk about how this whole experience has really allowed you to think more about that and really give back to a lot of the organizations that have been you know, supported you guys throughout the way. So I know we talked about how maybe pictures are worth 1,000 words, and you know, so I know that you do have maybe some pictures to show that can really help us understand what was going on and you know, some of the words on the pages of the book. So I maybe invite you to kind of show and talk a little bit about some of the pictures.
For sure. So I've got about just shy of 20 photos here. Most of them don't need a lot of context wrapped around them, but a couple of them do. So I'll get Scott to show us the first one here. So this is Sierra. Obviously, she's in the hospital here in Saskatoon. So this is in the Jim Pattison's Children's Hospital. So here she is in the intensive care unit. So they had moved us up there, and this is actually right before that first passage of the book that I read you. So this is, just before the echo technician came in and did that echocardiogram on her when she had her stroke. So shortly after this, she had her stroke. And when they wheeled her back into the room, she looked like that. So those two photos are just a couple hours apart. So she's sedated here. You can flip to the next picture, Scott. So this is what was happening. I just thought this picture was so interesting. This is what was happening to her brain when she was experiencing the stroke. So the picture closest to me, that is when her brain has the blood clot in it. And you can see all those little pathways, right? So that's the oxygen moving, like going through the pathways in the brain. So when they extracted the clot, then the second picture is what it looks like after they took the clot out. So there's the difference between like during stroke and after stroke. So they did actually let Scott and Sage come in for a quick little visit. Sierra was still sedated, but they let them in. So this is just a photo of them before.
Don't tell anyone.
So they ended up sending us to Edmonton, and this is one of those times where I felt inappropriate taking out my phone and taking a picture, but I thought it was just sort of such a unique circumstance or situation, and I wanted to show Sierra because she was sedated. So I did want to be able to show her what had happened. She actually says she remembers this, but I wanted to show her what happened when she wakes up in Edmonton. So this was our plane that we took. Okay, so we got to Edmonton, and you guys have all heard me talk about this VAD, right? So this wasn't an immediate thing that happened when we arrived in Edmonton, but eventually they did implant a VAD. So the VAD was physically attached to her heart, like it was implanted inside her heart. So you see the two circles on this x-ray. So the top circle is an ICD actually, but the bottom one is a VAD. So then it is connected to a drive line, and the drive line actually exits out of her abdomen just beside her belly button. So this was after her surgery. It just speaks words, right? Like so many tubes, so many cables, so much stuff happening. Okay, so here's the VAD, and I know it's kind of a bit of a gross picture, but I really wanted people to see what I was talking about, so, or what she went through more appropriately. So you can see her stomach, right? So that's that drive line exiting out of her stomach. But we always had to keep it covered. So it's not like she walked around with it exposed, but we had to learn how to do a proper sterile dressing change. So the picture with her sitting on the couch, that's more realistic of what it looks like day to day because it was covered, but she always had to carry the two batteries and the controller around with her because it's all physically attached to her. So that's what we had to put in the backpack, and that she carried around with her. So these are just some happy times. Here's that wall that I told you about, just of pictures and stuff. So it was kind of our happy wall that we would look at and talk about, or if someone mailed us something, right, we'd put it up on the wall. If you've read the book, there's a lot of talk about nosebleeds. And we have to be creative. So when she's eating supper there, that's the nurse's concoction of like, here, let's tape some popsicle sticks together so you have your hands and you can move on with your day. The second one is there's like gauze packed up in her nostrils to keep it from bleeding. But we had lots of fun.
So now everyone knows how to stop a nosebleed at home. So if there's a tip and trick you want to take away from today.
This was Sierra's first visit home. It was just a weekend pass, but it was her birthday and it was Thanksgiving. And this is like Scott's whole side of the family, like his dad and all of his brothers and sisters and all of their kids. So it was actually quite incredible that everybody made it, because you can see there's so many of us, right? That there's always someone missing or someone that, you know, is busy or something. So yeah, it was a great homecoming for that weekend, but then we had to go back. There's their zombie cheerleader costume. And to me, this photo speaks 1,000 words. This is Sierra, moments before getting pushed into the operating room for her heart transplant. And she is cool as a cucumber. Like, she's literally flipping through her phone, like, yeah, just wake me up when it's done. So, and this was what, like, this is so representative. I love it.
She was a teenager at, you know, the age of 12 by then.
So this was a day after her heart transplant. And this is like 10 days after. 10 days after, actually, it might have been 11. They sent her out. She was discharged. So those are my pictures.
Awesome. Well, Kim, thanks for sharing those, and thanks for Sierra and the family for letting some of us see those pictures that might not have been part of the inner circle that got them in real-time updates. So really, really amazing. Maybe what I will do right now before we go to questions and answers, I think it's a really great time for us to maybe just have Sierra and Scott and Sage, so the rest of the family, just kind of stand up and give a wave to everyone. They're in the room, some of you know them, but if you don't want to stand, just give a wave so that people know who you are. So there's Sierra in the front, there's Scott. Sage, she's in the middle. I don't know if you saw her.
Blushing over there.
No, this isn't rehearsed, but no, come up and say a few words. I'm just kidding. They will kill me. Absolutely kill me. Okay. So yeah, so now we really wanted to kind of open it up for audience questions. So if you have any questions for Kim about anything that she's gone through or want to just hear a bit more, and now's the time. So, and don't all, you know, start at once. I see a hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which part of the book was the most difficult to write?
That's a good question. That's hard. I think the part that was the hardest to write was the times when not a lot was happening, because I didn't know how to express anything that didn't just seem mundane. Like the emotional parts, like where big storylines happened, those seemed to flow quite easily, even though they were emotional, but they were easy to write. It was like, you know, the stint between Halloween and heart transplant, when we were just sort of in and out of the hospital, and, you know, we were working virtually. Sierra was doing virtual school, sometimes at home, sometimes in the hospital, with so many friends come to visit. And at the beginning I had like a chapter for like every family that came to visit, and then I'm like, well, this is really just a book on all the friends that came to visit, so I had to condense it. So that was actually the hardest. A good question.
There's another.
I saw Jessica's hand.
Jessica's hand.
Do you have a favorite part of your book?
Oddly enough, I kind of like the emotional parts. Like the two parts I read you today were two of my favorite parts. Chapter 4 is the most emotional and my favorite all the same. I think maybe because it brings emotion, and I can look back at it and think, oh, like, you know, we've come such a long way. So chapter 4.
That was probably the chapter you read and you cried off and on for the entire one. So if you're looking for reference, that's probably.
I think it's called Where's My Coffee? I think that's the one.
Dawn, did you have one?
So many edits.
did it take
Ooh.
until you got to your?
A lot, like a lot of edits. So I edited a ton of times. Like I read through it, like front to back, a full sort of 3 times, I would say for sure. And Annette did like a full run edit, and Scott did a full run edit, and my friend Renee, who's I think behind you, she did a full run edit. Like, and all of those were like back and forth and back and forth. And then it went to the publisher, and the publisher did, you know, probably 2. She did a pass through it. She passed it to someone else to do a pass through it. So I don't know. Let's go with 10. Lots. Yeah.
Did you research how to write a book, or did you just write what you felt? Like, did you do any learning?
You know, I tried to, like, and I probably like literally Googled that, how to write a book. But most of the stuff that I found online was all for fiction. Like there was a lot more blogs and tutorials about how to create stories, right? And that wasn't my problem. I had the story. I really didn't know a lot about writing. And I mean, I'm an educated individual, so it was quite surprising when I realized how little I knew how to write. Like just little stuff like proper sentence structure and capitalization and tense. Like I would go future tense or present tense and past tense all in the same sentence. So yeah, I needed a lot of assistance, hence all of the edits.
Go ahead.
I was just curious, Kim, so how did you sort of bring it up with the family? Hey, I want to write a book, and how did it go from their perspectives on, hey, this is our personal lives, and share this, and just curious how the family all felt about that.
Good question. I think everybody's been very supportive from the beginning. Like Scott was very supportive, and Scott's not a huge reader, so the fact that he read this book like a number of times speaks volumes. Even the kids, I was a little bit more apprehensive about how they would feel about things, and I've asked them multiple times. And you know what? They've been very supportive and encouraging through all of it. Like if there was anything that I thought was maybe a touchy subject, I'd ask them about it if it was okay that I shared, or I'd get them to read like a paragraph as we were kind of writing it and stuff. And you know, they were actually very open about everything that we discussed. I don't think there's anything that was off limits, to be honest. And I was a little bit nervous even about the book being released, if it would bring about special attention to the kids, especially Sierra, and if she would be open to that or not. And you know, I think it's all been extremely positive. Like she seems very happy when I read her things that people have said, or you know, if we run into someone and they're like, oh, you know, we read your book and you're so strong. Like it's been a very positive result from all of it.
Got their hands up there. I actually have one maybe question for the audience. I know some of you have already read the book, and did any of you have any favorite parts or favorite moments that you just either had like a smile or had a quick cry, or that really meant something to you? So I'm going to throw it back to anyone who read the book. I can share one of mine, but I thought I would throw it to the audience first. Dawn.
I had a part that just really got to me. The school, the part where you guys went to do the schooling at the hospital and they turned you away, the MRSA. Oh, it just was so frustrating.
That really got to me too.
I just was putting myself in your position. I just felt so upset about that. So yeah, that really got to me.
Thanks, Dawn. Yeah. Carla.
And the security guard turned her away and wouldn't let her come through. I just wanted to like punch her.
She didn't put that in the book, but she really did punch her.
Just like I knew she was just doing her job, and it was like, oh, why is everything so hard?
Any other ones? Okay, I'll share. Oh, there's one back there, okay.
My favorite part was, I think it was a few pages prior, I was crying. And then the part where Sierra throws the pen at your head, I was like, oh my gosh, I like feel I could visualize it, everything.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. Happy moments.
Yeah.
But mine is actually in chapter 4, which was like really emotional, but was the part where after the stroke, and then she goes into Carl's office, Don's husband, and sees him in his office. Like that's my favorite. And I just love the way that she wrote that part, because it was just like she couldn't even speak real English. And I just like the way she wrote that part. It was just like it made it very emotional, and I thought it was really well done. Yeah.
I think for me, it's not that it was really my favorite part, but just when you couldn't get a coffee. And you think like you're going through all this and like these simple things that you take for granted that really are so important to you. That's yeah, and for me, it was just there was so much that I didn't know, that I thought I knew the whole story, but I didn't until I read it.
I have to say, so it was something, it wasn't even when I read the book, it was because of like memories from that time. But I love the first communication with Sierra after about the Savage Puppy Love chapter there. It's I was just like, again, just knowing the history about pets and things like that. It was just like, I'm like, you go girl, you can have whatever the hell you want, right? So Sierra, you were such a smart cookie with that one. Yeah, and you can see Coda on the screen now. So I love that one. It was amazing. And then, you know, even just to see, you know, the picture when she got the stuffed puppy after that, it was pretty cute.
I think Sage is the one that put her up to that. Just so you know.
Sister love.
Yeah.
Sister love. Excellent. All right. Any other questions or comments on the book before I'll turn it over to Kim, and then she's got some closing comments and maybe some thank yous. Oh.
Do you guys know anything about the donor?
Oh, right, good question. No, actually, they're very little anyways. So they do keep all that information confidential. But before she went in for her heart transplant, like when she was just listed, we had asked everything that we could. And they shared with us that she would need to receive a heart from, could be a male or female. It would have to be an adolescent or a young adult, and it would have to be a small adult just because of the size of her. So, you know, kind of within that teenage to 25 to 30 range is what I have in my head. I don't know if they actually ever said that or not, but they did say it had to be a young, small adult. Otherwise, that's about it. Like they cast the net over all of Canada and just dip into the United States, just places that are kind of close enough that they could get to us in time. So that's, and they keep all of her information, like all of our information, confidential from the donor's family as well.
What were the main emotions that you felt during this whole experience?
Probably fear was like the biggest emotion. And just, you know, it's kind of weird because when you're experiencing these things, you kind of just put yourself on high alert and you're high anxiety through it all. And it's not until after it's done that like some of that emotion even releases. Like I have probably cried more after the fact than during, like, because so many of those things, like granted, I had my outbursts during all of this, but I think now I'm just so appreciative and grateful, you know. So I think during it was all fear and not knowing what to expect and not knowing what to do, and now it's just all, you know, gratitude. Okay, well, if nobody else has anything else, I really love that this was so interactive. This was like the best night ever. I do have a big list of thank yous. So the first and most important is to our heart donor. Our heart donor gave us our happy ending. So we are eternally grateful for that individual. In addition to that, the doctors and nurses on all of the medical support staff and the Stollery Hospital and the Jim Patterson's Children's Hospital, like none of this, she wouldn't be here today without all of those supports. So we are so grateful for all of them. And for all of the support that we received when we were in the hospital, like all of the people that reached out and sent prayers and texts and well wishes and kind words and donations and gifts, like it honestly is so meaningful. And one of the things I struggled with the most was how to say thank you. Like how to, like I can say thank you, but that doesn't seem like enough when people are so generous. So thank you, all of you, like from the bottom of our hearts, for all of the support that you provided throughout our experience. And now, like you're all here tonight, you're buying books, and we are very grateful. Thank you to Alyssa and McNally Robinson for hosting this awesome event. This was so much fun and so incredible, and I'm so happy I could share this all with you. To Annette for interviewing me tonight and making this so fun and relaxed, and I think I would have been really nervous if I was up here by myself, but you made this so awesome. And you've been such a huge supporter for all of our journey. You're there the whole like through everything, and you're such a strong advocate for the book. She sold like 20 books all on her own. So
I like to read, and I know people.
Yeah, I mean, everyone that helped make this into a book. So your Nicholsworth Publishing for taking my Word document and making it into a beautiful book. And I don't know if everybody's noticed the hidden image in the heart, but if you haven't, make sure to look at the front cover and see what you can see in the heart. And I think I already mentioned Scott and Annette and Renee for helping edit all this. And just bringing it to life. So thank you, everybody. And definitely a special thank you to Scott and Sage and Sierra for enduring this entire experience as a family unit. I mean, we really did stick together as a family. And you guys managed to do this with such courage and such grace. And thank you for letting me write a book about it and share it with everybody, because that's really meaningful. So I love you guys so much. Thank you.
All right, I'm just going to say a quick word before I let you go. I'd like to thank Kim and Annette so much for being here tonight. And I will now invite you to meet Kim at the signing table at the very back there with your copies of My Daughter's Heart, which can be found on the desk right next to you there. You're more than welcome to get your copies signed before you purchase them. Just please stop at the cash desk on your way out the door. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight, and enjoy the rest of your evening.